So that was a summer of 2022. What happened next? What was after that?
So after summer 2022, I kind of came back to serving the refugees which are inside the country, which are in our region, which stayed
Right.
in our region, which are connected to our church, who come to our church for help and who we work with on a constant basis now. But realizing that I have more resources, which would be church,
Right.
resource number one,
Right.
a pretty major one,
Well,
that
huge.
that resource alone is enough to
Yeah.
do a lot of stuff. And then also I am a young person, which means a lot. I'm young.
Still.
Like pretty self-explanatory, I guess.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
well, another advantage is because I have two very close friends of mine who are girls, females, and they are, one is 2 years older than me, the other one is 8 months younger than me.
Okay.
But they both are married, and so we are young. We both have churches. Well, all of us, three of us, have church, but they are tied to their families. One of them has a child now. The other one is just married. I don't have the family of my own, and at this point, it gives me a lot of freedom. It's not that
Right.
family limits them because they do some other stuff which I wouldn't be able to do
Right.
because I'm alone. But in that case, that is a great advantage.
Yeah.
Because I don't have, with husband that would be kind of easy because he's an adult, I'm an adult. But then if I had a child who would be dependent on me, that would be very irresponsible of me. But I don't have a child, so I can do whatever I want.
Oh.
For now.
No, that's a joke. So, I think since mid-fall, all winter, it was bothering me so much. Like, I was still working with refugees.
Right.
I was working, I had a job, still worked as a translator. I was doing something, but I was like, man, I could do more.
That's not enough.
That's not enough for me. I was created for more.
Oh yeah. We all were.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing.
Yeah, like, what is what's that song? Is this a song from a Disney princess of like, what is my purpose? Or listen to that song on
When
Mulan.
will my reflection show
Yeah.
Stop,
who
stop.
I am inside?
Exactly. I was feeling like a Mulan.
Yeah.
Wait, like a Mulan, not a Mulan. Sorry. Well, yeah.
Yeah. The clarity was needed. Right.
Beginner's mistake.
Yeah.
Totally.
Sorry.
Totally.
That was really troubling my soul for a while,
Okay.
And it seemed like my life was kind of the stuff was not connecting. I was like, okay, if I'm not doing more, maybe I could gain some more education. Maybe I applied to the universities in the US, and I got into some of them, but then in one case the sponsorship failed, and I'm not able to cover the master's program by myself.
Yeah.
Then I was like, okay, maybe God really doesn't want me to stay in Ukraine anymore. Even though I did not want to leave, but I was like, if that's God's will, well, I guess I'll have to follow that. So I was like, okay, let me try to find a job somewhere abroad and travel around the world as a teacher, and because that was one of the professions I was acquiring at university, and I applied to a program which travels around Europe for 2 months, and they have a group of young teachers, and they kind of put them in different classrooms in different circumstances, and they kind of train them to become better teachers and gain great experience in like a very short period of time. But that failed for some reason too, and I'm like, God, what do you want me to do? Like, I'm
Give
like,
me some clarity.
Okay.
I have the potential, and it seems like I don't have the room to release that potential.
Yeah.
And so one evening, that was end of February, so it's like a year after the full-scale invasion. I come to my parents' bedroom in the evening. We pray together as we usually do, and then I'm like, I'm feeling that in my heart that I really have to tell them, because like it's bothering me so much, and I'm like, Well, guys, wait, parents.
Time has come.
I have to tell you something. And so I just lay out everything that was bothering my soul for the last
Wow.
few months.
You
And-
vented out pretty good, right?
Yeah, and I was like, I really don't know what to do. Like, I feel sometimes like I want to join the military, but like, look at me. You know, and I'm
Look
like,
at
it's a whole.
I will never pass for a perfect military.
Okay. Another copyright strike.
This Mulan,
Yeah,
I
but
know
see,
she
in
knows
Mulan's
something.
case, she became a warrior
Yeah.
because she was never passed for a perfect bride.
Yeah.
I look like I would go better as a bride, not a soldier, you know? with my
like,
with my
you had to-
abilities and stuff.
Yeah, you had to choose something else, right?
And so I'm
Bride
like,
was an option, right?
Oh yeah.
exactly. And especially if you take into consideration that army in any country is a very tough environment.
Yeah.
The war adds so much layers into
Yeah.
that toughness and
Totally.
and rage and stuff.
Totally.
And I'm like, I grew up in like very, very Christian loving surrounding. My whole life was like that, you know. My whole family is Christian. I grew up in a Christian household. I've been in church since the day I was born. Even before I was born, my mom would bring me there, you know.
Yes, we basically were born in church, so like
On the church bench, you know, that's how to
Yeah.
say it. Yeah.
Yes,
Kinda.
exactly. Our parents got married in church, so
Yeah.
the foundation of our existence was established in church,
Yeah.
you know.
We came to
Whoa.
this world
Church
from God,
came
you
out
know.
so good.
Okay,
Wait,
church bench children.
New movement, you know.
Oh, I like the sound
What
of
did
it.
you wanted to say something? You were like,
No,
oh.
it's just the idea that came out so great. Like I forgot it. Like the foundation of our existence. Oh yeah, the foundation.
Yeah,
of our existence. Wow.
Good thing it's recorded.
That's-
Good thing it's recording because that was a great thought that just came
Yeah,
out of my mouth.
there were some great thoughts, and there still will be. So,
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Yeah.
Yeah. Do that.
And listen to podcasts uncensored.
So I lay down all my pain, all my
Right.
struggles, and then we talk with parents, and my dad is like, "I'm so glad that you are not happy." No. My dad is.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, honey.
Happy your son
Oh
is
yeah,
broken.
honey, my girl. I'm so happy that you're not happy. As a father,
I dreamed
I
about it
feel
my whole life.
I feel accomplished as a father.
I did not fail my job as a father. No,
Okay.
what he said is, I'm glad that you think about doing more and that you
Right.
want to grow and like you want to be a better person.
Yeah,
At the end
yeah.
of the day, you know. But he was like, yeah, just think, pray. We'll think about that too. We'll support you. And then somewhere in between the lines, my mom mentioned her old friend. And she was like, oh yeah, Sasha is her name. She's evacuating civilians from Bakhmut. And
It's Donetsk region, the east of Ukraine.
you can Google
Yeah.
that city as well.
Yeah.
So when she said that, I didn't say that out loud at that second, but I was like, okay, noted.
Mom, you did it
Oh,
yourself.
that was a mistake by your mom.
Yeah.
That
Didn't
was
know
a
that.
mistake. We'll
so yeah,
get to that.
basically that woman, she was traveling to pre-frontline and frontline cities, evacuating
Right.
the civilians who were in major danger, needless to say. So she came to our hometown to hear Rivne.
Mhm.
I accidentally found out about that, and I decided to make an appointment with her, like meet up, talk with her, and I was like, I'm gonna ask her if I could somehow maybe join this whole movement.
Right.
But I was like, okay, God, if I tell her about my desire to join this ministry, I don't want her answer. Okay, not that I don't want her answer to be, but I need to know that this is exactly what you want me to do. And the way I think I'm gonna know it is that when I tell her about what I want, she would say yes because we need that. Not that her answer would be like, if you want, you can come. I was like, if she says like if you want, you can come, then that's a no. Because like you don't go there for entertainment. You don't go there
Yeah,
if
yeah,
you're not
sure.
necessary there.
Yeah, you're only.
You only
there
go there
for-
if you are ready to get the job done.
Yeah.
And so I appointed a meeting with her. I came to her place. We drink tea. We get to know each other a little bit better because we I kind of knew about her from what my mom told me. She didn't actually know me. And
Right.
so we talk, we chat. I tell her a little bit about myself. She tells me about herself and about this ministry. And so at one point I'm like, it's time to ask the question. I was like,
yeah.
so is there any chance maybe I could join you somehow? And then
In
she
a way?
goes, yeah, I was just talking with the head of our with the head of our organizations that I'm doing
Right.
it under, and he said, Sasha, you need to find a girl who can drive a car, who could help you share the wheel because she had to drive long distances.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's
And I came out of that meeting with her. I sit in the car. And I'm so uplifted. I'm so happy. I'm like, God, thank you so much. That was pretty straightforward.
The clarity, you
Oh,
know,
yeah.
So, and I'm like,
want.
I am
yeah.
dying of happiness, you know?
Yeah,
It
yeah.
just feels me. I'm like, oh, this is so amazing. And so I am like so excited because, you know, a few evenings back, I was almost crying to my parents about how I'm so lost. And this time I'm so uplifted. I know what I have to do next. And then I go to that same bedroom and I sit with my parents and I'm like, guys, I'm going to the east of Ukraine. And they're like, oh.
I'm going to the active zone of war.
And they're
And then
like,
my parents are like,
no.
So
No, just no.
So
No,
yeah,
you're not.
in short about Ukrainians, we get excited when we can get like even more involved in all
dangerous
in all the dangerous stuff and all that happens.
not all of us.
Yeah,
Yeah, not all of us, but like
Some people who want to do something to do more, who want to help, who actually want to be useful here, we get more excited if we can do more.
If we can use all our resources, all our potential.
and it's
meaningful.
not because we're Ukrainians. It's just because we're in this type of a situation where we don't
Yeah.
really have a choice. So
And
we do or we don't.
Yep, exactly. Sasha, she was working with an organization,
Right.
and they had a great mechanism of sponsors from abroad supporting them, and they had a great logistics established already. So it was it is a great organization, and I worked with them for a month, I think. Well, I didn't work with them officially. I was just helping her,
Right.
but I was not in any way officially involved in that.
Right.
I was not what is
Employed.
that word?
What was that?
Not that because they don't pay. It's
Yeah.
it's
The
a
salary?
yeah,
Okay.
it's a volunteer organization,
Okay.
but they're still like more
Official or something like
yeah.
official?
But I was not connected to them in any way. I was just connected to my partner because my main duty was to help her out.
Right.
So, and our main duty basically was to evacuate the civilians, because this is what this organization was majorly focusing on. They were focusing on evacuating the civilians, helping the civilians. They would help those soldiers who were somehow connected to them, because before the full-scale invasion, this organization was serving, and they still are, serving the families. What is that term in English? Well, basically, families who take more kids into their house.
Ah, okay.
Okay.
From
The
orphanages.
foster families.
Yes, foster families, right. So, and then they would help those soldiers who were somehow connected to some of the foster families or
Right.
foster houses, which we have
Right.
Yeah.
in Ukraine. And so I was just traveling with Sasha for a month. And then on one of our trips, she had to leave earlier. And another dude from that organization came to join me, because it's not the best idea to do all of that alone and travel
Yeah.
around those areas alone.
It's dangerous.
So but before Sasha left, we were working in a pre-frontline city called Chasiv Yar, which you can also Google.
Yeah. We will.
It
put
is
the map.
it is located on the second line of defense. So, do we need to explain to the viewers how?
There are what the
Four tanks. 0, 1,
Well,
2,
I don't know
3.
if that is an international understanding.
Well, that's
I
Uh,
think so.
we don't even know if it's official. It's just how we
Yeah.
Yeah.
sort
Well,
it out.
basically, yeah. Okay, let's go with a more official one. Probably. So we have a red zone, which would be
Yes.
zero's first line of defense. Then we have
Yeah.
a yellow zone, which is a second line of defense, and a third line of defense. And then green zone is everything,
Everything
else.
else.
the rest of the country.
Yeah.
So Chasivyar is located in the red zone, the second line of defense. And so since it is so close to the green,
From
and
like,
the green zone, so since it is so close to what's the color?
Red?
Red.
Red. So the Chasivyar is in yellow zone.
Yes. And since it is so close to red zone,
Yes.
Yes.
there are soldiers who locate there, apart from civilians who live there.
Right.
And so we would go there to evacuate the civilians,
Mm-hmm.
but it is impossible to avoid communicating with the soldiers.
Right.
And so we would, so that organization would help supply us with water and some basic stuff like the wet napkins,
Mhm.
Yeah.
some basic medicine,
Yep.
and like painkillers or some pills for headache or something.
Right.
And then those who calm your nerves as
Yeah.
well. And the all
So
the
that there's
panic
some
attacks,
spells
not
and-
panic attacks, but anyway, all
Yeah.
they're,
Sure.
they're mostly old people who live in such cities as Chasivyar
Mm-hmm.
who refuse to
Leave.
Yeah, who refuse to leave because they lived there their whole life, and they're like, I don't want to go into some place that I don't know, which is a whole different conversation. Yeah, about
It is.
so, and sometimes we would stop, we would share some water with the soldiers and stuff, give them some food or some snacks that we would have with us. And so at the end of my first month of working with Sasha, I met with a group of soldiers. That sounds funny. Like I forgot the term. I forgot the
battalion?
term, but it's like
It's
no, not a
battalion.
battalion, because battalion's a
Small
lot of
Squad.
Yeah.
people.
like a
It's more
small-
like a small unit of 15.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, more like you.
Like the word, which is like refers to a unit of soldiers from 15 to 40 people, I guess.
Yeah.
Right.
And I came there one of many times we came into the city. I met them by accident. It was just like they were so nice, and they were like so talkative and open to
cool.
like conversation. And I had
That's
I had some more stuff with me that time because I communicated with youth from my church, and I was like,
Mhm.
hey guys, I have a great event slash
Need.
humanitarian project that we could do. It's like, let's all, I can give you the list of, because I travel to those places, I know what the soldiers need. I can give you the list, I can give you the number, the quantity of those things, how much of them we need, and you can buy them, you can send them over to me, and I'll give it to the soldiers. So
Right.
they helped purchase some cooler stuff like socks, underwear, more underwear, again, snacks, then some specific medicine, which are specific for the soldiers, not the civilians.
Right.
Then what else? Well, not a lot of food. I even forgot what we gathered for them. But still, that was like not those basics that all volunteers have with them.
Mm-hmm.
And I just met up with those guys, and they were first of all, they were shocked that we, even with that, like they were like, wow, that's for us. I remember I opened one box for them, and one literally was like, whoa. That was his reaction.
Oh, cool.
And so we communicated with them. They were so nice. And then one guy said to me like, wow, our mood got so much better since you like, because you came to us.
That's great.
And so then we left, and we were driving around the city doing other stuff, and I was like, I don't have any contact with them, and next time I come, there's no guarantee that they'll still be here, because they move out,
Yeah.
they move in, move out, they
Rotate
move
a lot. And so,
Yes, there's a lot of movement happening in their life, and
Yeah.
I was like, but I don't want to lose contact with them. Like, I just had it in my heart that Diana, you have to do something. You have to do something more for them. And so
I should return and
yeah,
get
and
them.
that was on the day I was supposed to leave to back home because I spent a lot of
Ooh.
time there, and I was
Okay.
like, what am I supposed to do? And so,
Because there's not a lot of time.
yeah, because like I already left them, and like the next day I'm leaving, so
Yeah. Yeah.
no chance I'm going to meet them again.
Right.
In my alive, and I'm like, oh no. And so I tell my partner, I was like, okay, because she was supposed to stay there still, and I was like, okay, next time you go here, please go to those guys and give them my phone number and exchange the contacts so that I can stay in touch with them.
Yeah.
She was like, well, we can go back to them now. I was like,
Oh, really?
oh, it is
Can
a
we?
possibility.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Okay.
we went we went back. I came and I was like, I remember they were sitting outside, and I approached them, and like they already can see me, but I'm too far away to start talking to them. And I'm walking towards them, like, I wonder what they think. They're looking at me, and I come up to them, and I was like, guys, I started missing you so much, I decided to come back. Yeah, and they started laughing, and the connection was established right away. Anyway, we exchanged the contact.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, and a few days after that, one of them, who I think he's responsible for keeping the track of all the things that they lose, what they need.
Right.
Yeah.
So he contacted me and asked if I could help with repairing the car, because the car was broken, and they had all the details that they need to fix it, but they were not able to cover the cost of the work
Right.
that was supposed to be done. So I had some money on my hands, and I was like, yeah, sure, I can cover that. And then I was like, well, maybe you need something more. Maybe you need something else. I think I can help you out.
I mean,
And
think
then-
about it.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
he was like, well, we were thinking that would be good to have like a box of tools for a car.
Oh,
And like I looked it up, and it was about 3,000
Hryvnias?
Ukrainian
yeah,
currency,
goodness.
which is knowing
For a few.
how expensive everything that's related to war
Yeah,
is.
it's less than $100. So
Yeah, it's less than $100. So, and I was like,
Yeah.
sure, maybe something else. And then he's like, well, on what help can we count?
okay.
I was like, that's a good
Okay,
question.
that's yeah.
I was like,
that's
well,
a good
look,
question.
anything except for weapons, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Are we allowed to say that?
Yeah.
Well,
Would have been nice to be able to, for all the volunteers to get like F-16 or something of the kind.
Yeah.
You know, it would be great. You know,
Yeah,
to
just,
go to America, fly
yeah,
it
and then
here,
when
the war.
I mean,
when it crosses the border and they ask you like, what do you need it for? Personal purposes.
yeah, sure, yeah.
And I was like, guys,
good.
just so I told them like, give me the list of things you need and we'll figure it out. So they sent me out a list. My enthusiasm dropped a little bit because I realized like, oh,
Wow.
things are
That
way
bad?
way more complicated than I thought it would be. But then again, I showed that list to my church and I was like, guys, so I met amazing people there. They do such an important job and they're very open to conversation.
Right.
We as a church, we have to make sure that their souls are saved, but a major way to reach their hearts is through helping them save their lives right now and save our lives as well, because that's what they do. They protect us. So if they are protected, if they're safe, we are safe. That's another thing they told me. They were like, I was telling them like, yeah, guys, thank you so much. You know, you do such an important job. And and one guy said, well, as long as we're fine, you'll be fine. So it is then
That
it
is
is
true.
it is my responsibility. It is our responsibility to make sure they are fine. Even for personal interests, to make sure we stay alive as well. And so ever since then, that started in, I think I met them in like beginning of April. So April, May, June,
year.
July.
2023.
Yeah.
that's
Okay.
April, May, June, July, August, September. 7 months.
Wow.
Wow,
Great.
that's a lot.
That's
Yeah. When we reach 1 year
Sure.
anniversary, I'll go over to them and celebrate them.
Oh yeah. Well, we hope that you won't have to go to them, and the war will end by that time. But
you'll be here.
That's very unlikely, though.
Yeah.
well, yeah, we pray for that, and the rest is in God's hand. So basically, you went there to help the remaining people
So
on that
Yeah,
territory.
that was what I was doing in March, and then
Right. So-
beginning of April, Sasha, who I was
Yes.
working with, she was not, for some important valid reasons, she was not able to continue,
Mhm.
and I decided for myself that I saw more meaning in helping the army and supporting the military who actually needed that
Than-
help, because the civilians who are left there, the volunteers,
Supply them
especially
well, right?
international volunteers, supply
Right,
them with
right.
everything they have. Yes, they live in terrible conditions still. They don't have electricity, they don't
But-
have heat.
But that's oftentimes is their choice.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
so-
choose it.
They have they're provided with food.
Yeah.
So I don't know, and many people help them
Mhm.
so much.
Yeah.
The international volunteers who work there, they are mostly 99% of the time they're focused on helping civilians.
Right.
Yeah.
Do military help the locals?
Yes, as well. So
So
How do they
So-
do that? Like a little bit.
yeah,
Um,
a little
they-
bit about this.
they share their food with them, water with them. They help. So in case if there's like a missile hit, they
Mhm.
give the aid that they need,
Mhm.
Right.
the medical aid that they need. Sometimes they even evacuate them if they need
Mhm.
the evacuation. Like
Mhm.
they can bring them out to safer cities.
Right.
So the locals there are surrounded with all
Mhm.
kinds of help
Right.
that they
Right.
need. So,
So-
I was like, a great resources go into serving those people. I see more meaning in for myself. I was like, I want to use resources I have for helping the military, because they're the ones who are protecting me.
Yeah.
They're the ones who are sacrificing their comfort, their health.
Everything.
And
Their
their
future,
and their
their
lives.
life.
Yeah.
Their
Yeah.
families, because a lot of them left their families back
Yeah.
home.
So I better help them.
Yeah. So the initial thoughts, the initial mission of yours was to come and help the locals, but when you got there, you kind of decided to change the perspective of
The
your work.
direction, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the direction, and you switched to mostly helping the military.
Mm-hmm.
As a Christian, like the question is, should we, as Christians, support the military?
Yeah, and
Should we even be involved with them, with anything that has anything to do with
and
war?
is there like a perspective in international support for military,
Yes.
not for the civilians, not only but for military?
Well, so in regards to Christians, well, let's talk about Christians in Ukraine now.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I think it's not even a question if we have to. 100% yes. It is our obligation.
Yeah.
Because so basically what it is right now, for some people who don't know, it is an invasion. So one country, which is Russia, with no valid reasons, only the made up reasons. So no valid reasons.
And no regard for lives, ours, or even
Anything.
their own soldiers. They have no regard
came,
for this.
They came into our country and they started invading it. They started killing people, civilians,
Destroying our homes,
Yeah.
our land, everyone's
destroying,
children.
crushing, raping, stealing.
Yeah.
what our soldiers do is they try to protect us from that.
Right.
Yes.
So, what is the logical response of me as a Christian?
Yeah. And
I support those who protect me.
yeah, because why is it interesting? Because I often hear from Christians like, I will only support civilians, and the reason why, because soldiers, well, they're soldiers, they're killing people and other stuff. But the thing is, the soldiers, most of the soldiers before the even invasion, they were civilians.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the thing is, we have this command in the Bible which says, "Do not kill," and
Right.
it does say so, and it does
Yes.
say do not kill, but people often misinterpret this command, meaning, and they think that it means do not take other person's life under any,
Any
circumstance.
Right.
While it means do not unalive a person with like no reason for that, like just
Right.
With
you
an
don't
evil
play God,
motive.
like
Motive.
your life should end right now,
Yeah, or just
or
with an
whatever
evil
the
motive.
means of
Right,
killing
right.
you use. I use stabbing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I don't. No. I don't.
You don't
kill.
stab. You don't usually go
Ooh.
around stabbing people,
I
right?
used
No,
to- no.
no, that's not the part of your
wow.
volunteering. Okay.
It's getting hot in here, right?
Oh,
That's for the
Censored
hot
part.
intro.
Wow, that's
I
a
use
hot
stabbing.
topic. That's a hot topic.
So
Okay, yeah.
the Bible means, in that command, the Bible means do not kill if you for no reason.
Yeah.
In our case, so what Russians are doing is killing, exactly, because there is no reason
Murdering,
for them
right.
to take our lives from us.
Right.
yes.
We never did anything to them, basically. Whatever their propaganda says.
That's
And then
another
what
topic.
our soldiers doing is they are destroying the enemy. So
Yes.
Right.
they're not killing, they're destroying. It's
They're
two completely different things. They're protecting, right?
Yeah, they're protecting.
And sometimes in the weapon conflict,
Yes.
sometimes you gotta use a weapon to protect.
Yes.
even
especially-
yourself.
Yes, exactly. First of all, for soldiers, first of all, they're self-defending, because if they defend
You
themselves.
kill or you
because-
get killed.
Yes, exactly. And another thing is, the Bible says that we have 10 commands. We have
Right.
many other commands in the Bible.
Yeah,
But the
yeah.
two most important ones is that you love God and you love your
You need-
close ones.
Yes.
Right.
And so the situation we have in Ukraine right now is that Russia came here and they are killing,
Our neighbors, right? Our close
yes,
ones.
my neighbors. So if I focus on not killing anybody and on loving and forgiving my enemy, then what I'm doing is I'm failing to fulfill the second most important
So-
command of loving our neighbor.
That is not a godly response to
Yes.
to the
Absolutely
the
not.
actions that are being done to us.
Yes, because also Bible says, rejoice with those who are joyful and weep with those who are weeping.
Right.
Because that's what we as Christians we're supposed to do. We can't just stay silent. We can't just say, oh, it's not our war, it's not about us, not about church, we're just existing as our community, that's it, or we're just helping the civilians, just the refugees. No, these people are also the people that God wants to reach as well. And who else if not us can actually help these people find God? Who else?
Especially since they're very vulnerable because of war.
Right. And if we're not, we talked about that earlier, if we're not afraid of death because we know that we're not actually dying, we're just
Right.
going to God, then, and they are not. Their most, the brightest perspective is to go to hell, and the only perspective. But and we're not doing anything to change that, then that's not a godly response. That's not the
We're not-
way God wants us to
Yeah,
respond.
we're not doing his
children.
job.
Yes.
We're not doing his work that
Fulfilling his commitments.
yes that he put us to do.
Yeah.
That's a deep topic, and I think that we will have an entirely separate episode on like
Specifically for that, right?
yeah, specifically for this theme, like Christians and war, Christians
Yeah.
on war, Christians during the war, because you know, actually there are a lot of pastors that are um, serving as a military, not as a chaplains,
Yeah.
but as a military,
Military.
Mm-hmm.
and that is a whole another topic to talk about,
No, I love.
because I think a lot of people in Ukraine and abroad do not just they just don't get it, the importance of us Christians being present in these times, present here
In
and there.
in the lives of our people. You
Yeah,
know, these are our people. You know.
our country, our people, the society
Yes.
we live in, our
Because
neighbors.
you know how it works. Like if they were the same man, they were not now soldiers. They were civilians. We would reach out to them. But now that they are soldiers, no, 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 no. We're not going to reach out. No, no, no.
And most of them
They
became
have rubber guns.
soldiers just what, year and a half ago.
To protect their families, to protect all of us. You know, and that's selfish. You know, not to do anything about it.
Yeah.
Well, I think with the war, so you know how we can never know God for who He actually is. It's always
Early.
of how we interpret Him, how we understand Him, and understanding of God even varies based on culture or continent you
Yeah,
or
totally.
your
Totally.
your community. So I think war is such a major and massive event. So it is impossible to stay unchanged.
Yeah.
If you experience war, and I think with war comes a whole different understanding of God, and
Christianity.
Christianity as well, and what the Bible teaches us. You know.
Right.
And so here's the point where we start to think of things like we sometimes we try to adapt what the Bible says to
Right. Yeah.
to our own beliefs, and this same text do not kill. Some people take it to say, I cannot go to war because I can't kill. Others say, well, but my loved ones are suffering, I have to protect them. So it's a different interpretation of even that, and so I think it is understandable why people who do not experience that cannot understand that, because if you live in peace, you still perceive God as only merciful and loving and forgiving and all accepting, and He is all of that, but He's also much more.
Yeah.
And some of those things are opening to us right now.
And actually, I just remembered. You all know the story about the story Jesus told about the Good Shepherd.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what Good Shepherd did. He went to war. He went to war for the soul of the lost sheep. Because, I mean, if you interpret it in the reality we live in, Ukraine, war, Russia, this and that, this is what Jesus would do. And this is what we do. We as Christians, we go and we fight for the lost souls. We fight for our lives. We fight for our families.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, basically that is God's work.
Yeah.